everyone, welcome back. Today we're gonna be making one of my favorite fall recipes, a pumpkin sage pasta. Before we get into it, for those of you who are new here, my name is Brittany. I'm a health coach and nutritionist, and my channel is all about helping you to create delicious low FODMAP meals to improve your digestive health. If you're into it, go ahead and subscribe for more low FODMAP recipe tutorials, as well as my tips and tricks for living a low FODMAP lifestyle. Okay, so let me get into the ingredients a little bit before we jump over to the stove and just cook this up, because it comes together really quickly. It only takes about 30 minutes, all right? So our two main ingredients today that have FODMAPs in them are going to be pumpkin and cream. So the low FODMAP serving size for cream is 2 tablespoons. We are gonna be using 1/4 cup in this recipe. But since this recipe, okay, so 1/4 cup is 4 tablespoons, so that's twice the amount of the low FODMAP serving size. But since this recipe is meant for 4 people, you're actually only getting 1 tablespoon per person, and that's half of the low FODMAP serving size. So, the same thing goes with the pumpkin. So I just kind of wanted to go over that to show you there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes developing these low FODMAP recipes for you, because especially when there is more than one low FODMAP ingredient, because I know a lot of you in the comments are kind of curious about how it all works out. So I just wanted to give a little overview of that for you guys. So if you're wondering where I'm getting these low FODMAP serving sizes from, you're gonna wanna check out something called the Monash Low FODMAP app. So this is what it looks like. If you guys are looking for it in the App Store. I prefer the Monash app because they are the authority on the low FODMAP diet. They're the ones that developed it and came up with it and everything. So yeah, I really like their app. And they have an interesting, and they have a very useful green light system. So they tell you the serving size and whether that's green, yellow, or red. Red is obviously no, and yellow is be careful. You know what I mean? So yeah, go ahead and check that out. I'll see if I can link it below for you guys. Yeah, just make it easy for you. So we are also gonna be using butter and Parmesan cheese today. You could make this recipe dairy-free. I would use, I would probably use duck fat instead of butter, and then I would use coconut cream instead of cream. And for cheese, I would just use nutritional yeast. I would try that. I don't really like to use those kinds of things. I prefer to use regular cream to coconut cream, because coconut cream I feel is a little bit more higher FODMAP, and my body has a harder time with plants, digesting plants, than animal products, which is something that I learned on my wellness or digestive journey, you know what I mean? It took a few years to figure out, but that's why I kind of go through in other videos how to run an elimination diet and how to reintroduce things and stuff. I'll link the video somewhere. So yeah, and then a really cool thing that I feel I've discovered about cream is that I feel I can have more than the low FODMAP serving size of 2 tablespoons. And I feel it's because it's all fat, basically. If you look on the label, there's no sugars. So again, if you remember from my other videos, FODMAPs are short chain carbohydrates, aka sugars, that don't break down well and absorb in the body and cause digestive issues. So since there are no sugars in here, can't really be that many FODMAPs, right? Same thing with cheese. I think that's a super cool hack to know. I do want to say one quick thing about this Parmesan cheese before we get into it. I typically like to buy a full block of Parmesan and grate it myself. Because a lot of these pre-grated Parmesans can have anti-caking agents in there, so you want to really make sure that you read the labels and make sure you don't buy one with those. Same thing that goes with the pre-shredded cheeses. So we are going to be using a pre-grated Parmesan, Pecorino, and Romano blend today, but just regular Parmesan or either of these, honestly, they would be totally fine. They're nice, hard cheeses, nice and salty, so that's the kind of flavor we're looking for. We're also gonna be using sage today, fresh sage, which is one of my favorite fall herbs. And I'm just gonna use it by pinching it off the stem like this. And then I've showed you guys how to do this before, but you lay the leaves on top of each other and then you roll them up like this. And we just give it a thin slice, right, like this. This is what's called a chiffonade. It also works really well with basil. Okay, so these tiny little tender leaves, I'm just gonna throw those in. And then I'm gonna use this, this last sprig to put in our pan with our fat and our chicken to help flavor the oil. So let's go do that. All right, here we have a large pot of water. We're bringing this up to a boil over high heat. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. Okay, so we're gonna let that boil. We are using tinkyata fettuccine style brown rice pasta today. I really like this pasta. For those of you that have been watching this channel for a while, you know this is like my favorite gluten-free pasta. One thing I have noticed with this though is that you have to use a lot of water. You want to use more than you would with like regular glutinous pasta. So that's why I have this one filled up quite a bit. I've noticed that if you don't use enough water, your noodles do tend to stick together. And that's also why with this pasta, you cannot cook 2 packages in one pot. Don't do it. You're gonna ruin it. Okay. So while this is coming up to boil, we're going to preheat this, get it hot, and we are going to sear our chicken. Gonna hit the outside with a little salt and pepper. Oh, you know what? Let's put some dried sage on there. Whoa. Okay, now that our pan is hot, I'm just gonna put a little bit of garlic oil. Just enough to coat the bottom like that. Now we have our chicken here with salt, pepper, and sage on there. So we're just gonna sear these over medium heat for about 2 to 3 minutes per side. Here we are just gonna put a little salt and pepper on the other side. You could put more sage if you wanted to. I don't think I'm gonna do that. Okay, so our chicken is done. We're gonna set that aside to cool and rest, and our water is nowhere near boiling. So we're just gonna have to wait for that. Oh, damn it. What? I totally forgot to put the fresh sage in there. So I don't know what happened, but I completely forgot to put my fresh sage in with our chicken when we were cooking it. So don't forget to do that, but it's still gonna be delicious. Okay, so we've got our water boiling here, finally. Okay, our water is finally up to a boil, and now we're gonna add our pasta. The package directions say 10 to 11 minutes. I'm gonna set a timer for 9 minutes because I want these to be a little bit al dente because I don't want them to get mushy when I add them to our sauce. All right, we have our pasta. It's finished cooking. It is al dente. I have drained and rinsed it. And now we're going to start on our sauce. I typically make this at the same time, but I didn't want to risk over cooking our pasta. Also, be sure to save a cup of pasta water before you drain and rinse your pasta because this is gonna come together with our sauce. So now we're gonna heat back up this pan and we're gonna take all of this amazing chicken bits, like it's called fond. We are gonna use this to flavor our sauce. Okay, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter. And 2 tablespoons of garlic oil. To this, we're also going to add our chopped sage. so that it can flavor our fat. This is actually a really good trick for Thanksgiving too, for mashed potatoes, to like stick a whole piece of sage in like cream or butter or any kind of fat that you're gonna be using in your potatoes, and then you can make like sage mashed potatoes. It's one of my favorite things to do. Okay, so we're just gonna let those fry up. Oh my God, it smells so amazing. Okay, so now see how they're starting to look like a little bit like dry and crispy? That's where we're gonna add our pumpkin. We're gonna add half a can. Okay, so now we're just gonna fry this in the oil really quickly. You'll see the moisture, it is starting to remove the chicken fond from the pan. So frying this is gonna help to caramelize the sugar and really punch up the flavor. Okay, you see how it's lightened in color a bit? I feel like that's what tells me it's done. Okay, so now I'm gonna add a cup of our pasta water. Okay, I'm gonna reduce our heat down to a medium low because we don't want this to evaporate too much. We just want to heat it through and let those flavors come together. Okay, see how nice and smooth that's become. Okay, turn down the heat even lower. Okay, and to this we are going to add 1 teaspoon of Fody chicken soup base. Next we're gonna add our 1/4 cup of cream. Look how beautiful a color that is. So this is when I would typically grate my Parmesan cheese straight into the pan. But since we're using this pre-grated one today, I'm gonna add it a little at a time so I can taste the flavor, because this is a very salty cheese, so we wanna make sure that we are not over salting our sauce. Okay, I don't wanna add too much. I'm just gonna add a little bit more because we are gonna finish it with cheese once we add our pasta. Oh, it's very good. I'm gonna add a little bit more salt. I would say about 1/4 teaspoon. And some black pepper. So good. Okay. So now we're gonna add our pasta. We're just gonna turn our heat off. Add this straight in there and give it a quick toss. It does take a little time, but do go slow, take your time, be gentle, because you don't want to break your noodles after all that work and like making sure you didn't overcook them. Okay, so now that's thoroughly tossed, I'm gonna add more cheese. If I were grating this from fresh, I feel like I would probably end up using about half a block, like half a triangle of Parmesan. Okay, let's give it one more layer of cheese and then we will give it a taste. Super good. It needs a little bit more salt. So let's add a little bit of that. All right, now let's dish it up. All right, guys, we've got our pasta here with a little bit of our chicken tenderloin sliced on top, a little bit of Parmesan. let's give it a taste. Oh my God, so good. It's got a little bit of the sweetness from the caramelized sugars in the pumpkin, and it's got a lot of like rich, savory notes from like the butter and the garlic oil and the sage. Oh, so good. So I know I have a lot of pasta recipes on this channel, and I am a former pasta addict. Pasta is my comfort food, and I don't typically eat it a ton anymore. I probably have it like once a week, if that. I noticed that if I eat too much pasta, then it'll kind of like throw my body out of balance, and like you'll kind of see what I mean, like after, you know, paying so close attention to how your body like reacts with food after a while, you know? So yeah, I just wanted to say that I know I have a lot of pasta recipes on this channel. I don't eat a ton of pasta, but it is my comfort food, and my channel is really about helping you guys find some comfort on this elimination diet, because I know it's really hard. So if you eat this dish and you actually like don't feel well afterwards, there is a very real possibility that you are sensitive to something about dairy that's not a FODMAP. So I just want to remind people that, you know, even though it's not like a FODMAP issue, a lot of people still are sensitive to dairy, okay? So I would really save this for somebody who has done their reintroductions already and know where they stand with dairy products like butter and cheese and cream. All right, guys, there you have it. My favorite fall recipe, pumpkin sage pasta. Please tag me if you make this. I love this recipe. I really want to see you guys make it. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.